03:17 a.m., Persian Gulf, a United States Navy destroyer cuts through black water alone. And somewhere in the darkness, 29 minutes away from changing everything, an Iranian finger is hovering over a launch button. The question isn't whether the USS Stout survives the night. The question is what happens after she does. 67 days at sea, 329 sailors, 23 escort missions, and tonight, what should have been nothing, another patrol, another radar sweep, another cup of bad coffee in the Combat Information Center. The Stout is an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, 9,000 tons of American power projection. Her SPY-1D phased array radar is simultaneously tracking 47 contacts across thousands of square miles of contested water. Merchant ships, fishing vessels, Iranian patrol craft holding a careful, respectful 15 nautical miles off her port beam. Everything is nominal, everything is quiet, but the radar isn't seeing everything. Here's what most analysts won't tell you about the Persian Gulf in early 2026. The Iranians had been studying American doctrine for 4 years, not watching, studying, every patrol route, every response time, every gap in sensor coverage. They had learned that the United States Navy's greatest strength, its layered, networked, integrated defense architecture, had one exploitable vulnerability: physics. Radar travels in straight lines. Terrain blocks straight lines. A missile battery hidden behind a rocky promontory on the Iranian coastline, 31 nautical miles northeast, is invisible. Not because of stealth technology, not because of electronic warfare, simply because the Earth curves and rock doesn't let radar beams pass through it. The Iranians called the tactic shadow launching. Forward spotters provide targeting coordinates. The battery fires blind, trusting the data. The defending ship never sees the launcher, only the missile. At 03:17:14, the battery fired. The weapon was a Noor anti-ship missile, a Chinese C-802 variant manufactured under Iranian license. Length, 6 meters. Weight, 715 kilograms. Warhead, 165 kilograms of semi-armor-piercing high explosive. It climbed briefly after launch, a brief, traitorous flash of radar cross-section, then dropped to sea-skimming altitude, 15 meters above the wavetops, Mach 0.9, nearly the speed of sound, invisible against the radar clutter of the ocean's surface. 27 seconds of flight time before the Stout's AN/SLQ-32 electronic warfare system picked up its active radar seeker. 27 seconds of invisibility. In a missile engagement, that is not a delay, that is a catastrophe. The moment the system classified the contact as hostile, the Aegis combat system didn't ask permission. It doesn't think, it calculates. Within 2 seconds, it had a firing solution, had selected interceptors, and was demanding one thing from the human being sitting at the Tactical Action Officer console: authorization. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Vance had run this scenario 400 times in simulation. 11 years of training compressed into a single moment. 3 seconds after detection, her hand moved. Weapons free.
03:17:46, first SM-2 Block 3IA leaves its vertical launch cell, a Mach 3.5 interceptor valued at $400,000, climbing hard and fast toward a geometry that left almost no margin for error. 1 second later, second SM-2 away. Standard doctrine, 2 interceptors per threat, because missing once is unacceptable. 03:17:52, first intercept attempt. The SM-2's proximity fuse detonates. Fragments tear into the Noor's airframe, but the kill radius calculation was off by 12 meters. 12 meters. The Noor is damaged, leaking fuel, trailing debris, but its radar seeker is still locked, still coming. 03:17:54, second SM-2 strikes, direct fragmentation. The Noor disintegrates 4.7 nautical miles from the ship. On the bridge, someone exhales. That was the moment the Iranians had been waiting for. What no one on the Stout knew, what their sensors couldn't tell them, was that the battery had launched 2 missiles, not 1. The second Noor had left its rail 8 seconds after the first, flying a slightly offset trajectory masked entirely by the radar signature of the lead missile, a technique with a clinical name in Iranian naval doctrine: trailer hiding. Use the first missile as a shield, let the Americans expend their interceptors, then send the real threat. The moment the first Noor's destruction cleared the radar picture, the SLK-32 screamed. Second inbound. Time to impact, 23 seconds. 23 seconds is not enough time to guide another SM-2 to intercept. The engagement envelope had collapsed. The last line of defense was a 20mm Gatling cannon bolted to the ship's superstructure, the Phalanx CIWS CIWS, a system designed for exactly this moment, the moment everything else has failed. 03:17:47, Phalanx begins tracking. 03:17:51, 4,500 rounds per minute reach out across the water, a solid stream of tungsten penetrators, each one moving at 1 kilometer per second. 03:17:53, rounds begin striking the Noor. Its flight path wobbles, guidance degrades. 03:17:55, the warhead detonates. Not from a precision hit, from damage accumulation. The Phalanx had shredded enough of the airframe that something critical surrendered, but the detonation happened at 340 meters, less than the length of 4 football fields from the Stout's starboard side. A 165-kilogram warhead at 340 meters is not a clean miss. The blast wave arrives in milliseconds. Sailors are thrown against bulkheads. A fragment, 2.3 kilograms of jagged steel, penetrates the hull at the waterline, passes through an equipment room, misses a sleeping sailor by the width of a hand, and buries itself in an interior bulkhead. Petty Officer Second Class James Morrison, on the weather deck conducting an inspection, goes down hard. A fragment has found his left thigh. The fragment will later be measured. It missed his femoral artery by 2 centimeters. 03:19:12, Captain Robert Chen reaches the bridge, 40 hours without sleep, the question hanging in the CIC like smoke. Sir, do we have weapons release authority for the launch site? The trajectory analysis was already complete, 31 nautical miles northeast, a specific point on the Iranian coastline. The standing rules of engagement were clear. Hostile fire had been received. Chen had the authority right now. No call to Fifth Fleet required. No permission from CENTCOM. No presidential authorization. The Tomahawks, cruise missiles in the Stout's forward launch cells were already spun up. Chen made his decision in 90 seconds. At 03:20, 4 Tomahawks left the ship. Then he picked up the radio. Fifth Fleet, this is Stout. We are engaged. Counter-battery fire is away. Request expanded authorization. Vice Admiral Santos received the report at 03:23. She had 2 choices: countermand a strike already in flight, or recognize that 4 missiles hitting 1 battery left every other battery intact. She authorized the expansion at 03:26. What followed was a 16-missile strike package coordinated across 3 American warships in under 9 minutes. The cruiser USS Gulf, the destroyer USS Mitcher, Tomahawk streaking northeast across the Gulf at 550 miles per hour, following programmed routes designed to thread through Iranian air defenses. 03:44, Chen's original 4 missiles find the battery that fired on the Stout. Command vehicle, radar unit, both launchers, 16 seconds, 4 explosions. The battery ceases to exist. The expanded strikes hit a coastal radar installation critical to Iran's entire Gulf targeting network. Destroyed. A logistics warehouse suspected of storing missile components near civilian infrastructure. Precision strike, 0 collateral casualties confirmed. Destroyed. A suspected mobile battery site based on predictive modeling. Empty terrain. The battery had moved. This is war. Not every calculation is correct. Not every missile finds what it's looking for. The fog doesn't lift just because your computers cost more. 03:52 a.m., 29 minutes after the first Iranian missile left its rail, the American response was complete. 16 Tomahawks, $24 million in precision munitions, 4 target sites, 1 confirmed battery destroyed, 1 radar network blinded, 1 logistics chain severed, 1 field of empty sand cratered. Iran absorbed the losses, condemned the strikes, released footage of destroyed civilian infrastructure that independent satellite analysts debunked within 48 hours. The UN Security Council convened. Russia and China blocked every resolution. The session ended without action. Oil markets spiked 8% before stabilizing. Gulf shipping insurance premiums climbed again. In Beijing, analysts updated their assessments of American response doctrine. In Iran, commanders reviewed what went wrong. In Washington, nothing formally changed, because formally, nothing had happened. Just another night in the Persian Gulf. Petty Officer Morrison was evacuated to Bahrain the next morning. 6 months of rehabilitation. He walked again. He never returned to sea. 29 minutes, 2 centimeters, 340 meters. This is the arithmetic of modern naval warfare, not the broad strokes of strategy, the razor-thin margins where physics and training and luck intersect for a few seconds, and the outcome determines everything. The Iranians learned something that night. So did the Americans. So did every naval power watching from a distance, taking notes, updating doctrine, quietly asking themselves the same question that should keep all of us awake. What happens the night the margins finally run out?